Hey, this is Marcus Washington, MTC Media, wrapping up USA's 103-86 win over South Sudan. Certainly is nowhere close to that 101-100 win that we saw in the exhibition season. I want to start this off so I can get these two things out of the way. I don't want to hear anything else about Jason Tatum not playing because he was an abomination out there. And I don't want to hear anything else about Derek White being on the roster instead of Jaylen Brown. Because if you want to see why Derek White was on the roster instead of Jaylen Brown and how he mixes with that unit and how cohesive he is and what he brings to the table with that unit, because you have to be able to play with four other guys. This is not a one-on-one exhibition. For the 9,000th time, it's not 1992. This is a competition, not an exhibition. So that's why Derek White's on that team. So no more Tatum talk. No more Jaylen Brown, Derek White talk. Now, getting back to where we were good and where we weren't. Obviously, the second unit was good. Bam Adebayo was very good. I thought, obviously, Derek White, Kevin Durant, again, was the straw that stirred the drink there. And Drew Holiday, I thought, was good coming off the bench also, even though the three at the end was god awful. But the bench seemed to have more flow. And more importantly, the bench seemed to have more defensive giddy up. At first, the ball movement for the first unit was pretty good. And I thought AD was very good defensively too. They did a great job with Carlik Jones driving him into help. Early on, they were doing those things. And then they got a lead. And it was almost like they got fat and happy. And that first unit became awful. And that includes LeBron James. Now, LeBron James has gotten a lot of praise throughout this, and he's deserved every bit of the praise. But the 6 turnovers, along with the lack of efforts on some of the closeouts, I mean lack of effort. Either he was late or he didn't close out at all, was an abomination. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing how LeBron played. Now, you can understand not having a good game. Steph Curry didn't have a good game. But even with Steph's bad shooting, Steph didn't hurt USA basketball. Today, LeBron hurt USA basketball. He constantly allowed Sudan to get back in the game by over-penetrating, making bad decisions with the ball, and like I said, the lack of defensive effort was staggering to me. But what I will give USA basketball was understanding that driving the basketball and getting into the bonus early, which is what I thought that the second unit did so well, is they racked up those fouls. And that just impacts how you can defend. And for South Sudan, I know they were getting upset with the calls, but the truth of the matter is they didn't take the ball to the rack that way at all. They played the numbers game. They played the math game, which a lot of teams are going to play against this team. The math game is if we make enough threes, we're going to get this game down to the last 4 or 5 minutes. And so sometimes you don't get rewarded with going to the free throw line. It's not like South Sudan has a Jokic where he is such a bear to cover that obviously he sets up things for other people, so on and so forth, where you could manufacture some trips to the lane. But that's not what South Sudan does. They spread you out 5 out. They try to get to the rack. We've seen it all throughout the Olympics. A lot of the off-the-ball jockeying and grabbing and tugging has not been called. They are not trying to do this freedom of movement thing. They want you to power through unless it's highly egregious. And I thought that the United States adjusted to that better, and I thought that Bam was active on the boards until Anthony Davis slipped and fell or whatever happened down there when he stepped on the foot of the opponent. I thought he was pretty active, especially defensively. But the U.S. made this game harder than it had to be because that first unit stopped moving the ball. And I'm not going to say it's the whole unit, but LeBron probably was the biggest offender of that. The ball just stopped. And again, it's not the NBA. It's not going to be you're going to feel good and you're going to see, do all these heat checks and do all these things. It's not how it works, because there are going to be times where they're going to dig and they're going to probably chop, they're going to probably chop your arms and everything else. And where that's going to be a whistle in the NBA, when you get into FIBA, and we know this as a country now, Yeah, that whistle might blow, that whistle might not blow. So you can't drive and overpenetrate and try to pivot in and out of three people, which he habitually did, taking away passing angles and all this sort of stuff. He was his own worst enemy. And I'm sure, I haven't watched his press conference. I haven't watched any of the press conferences yet, but I'm sure someone will bring it up, or he'll admit it himself, that he was awful. He was awful. And that's the thing that the United States are going to have to fix going as they go further in this tournament, because you can't just throw away the ball. If Germany is hitting shots, you can't just throw away the ball against them, because they're going to make enough shots, and they have enough high level players where they can make you pay for being loose. And there's other teams that can make you pay for being loose, that's also still in this tournament. But the disappointing thing with Team USA today was that LeBron was bad. They couldn't put this team away. They had a 20-point lead, 21-point lead, gets all the way down to 10. You have to put in the second unit in. And it would be different if South Sudan did something different that made you turn the ball over. But that's not what happened. United States just shot itself in the foot, getting all willy-nilly and thinking now it's going to turn into an exhibition and not be a competition. Now, for South Sudan, the one thing I would criticize them for is you're playing in 5 out, you're trying to screen, you're trying to get guys open, you want the United States to overhelp on things. You saw the U.S. was switching everything. So why not put Curry when he's out on the floor? Why not put him in more ball action? Why not when you had they had an ATO, or was a blob, can't remember which one it was, where they ran some flex action? Why not put him on the flex cut and make the United States make a decision? Are we going to switch on this like we've been switching, or are we going to try to fight through and maybe you get an easy one in the lane? South Sudan, to me, did not try to get enough points in the lane. Like I said, they played this game like they were playing the math game, and it didn't work for them. But for the United States, this performance cannot carry. You know, you have Puerto Rico next. Puerto Rico's undersized. You know, they try to run every living thing through their guards. With Alvarado and Waters, you know that coming in. So I expect for the next game to be a game where Joel Embiid can thrive. He should get a lot of playing time. I don't know if he's going to be back in the starting lineup. He should be back in playing time, but he should thrive in that one. And this is what Kerr should do. You're playing based on the matchups. You just cannot roll out the ball and say we're in the United States and we have X amount of NBA players, so that means this or that. Everyone has NBA players. Just about everyone has NBA players, including the teams that aren't here, that didn't get to qualify. That's why you don't see Luka. You know, so again, United States 103, South Sudan 86. Kind of disappointing, even though it was a win. Marcus Washington, MTC Media.